2. Hello and welcome to B Movie Euphoria. I'm Nick.
I'm Alex.
Yeah, it's funny how it works like that, you know.
It's been a while.
It's been a while. Anyway, so I just recently moved, and the wall has moved, and so this is the new kind of setup. This is the new setup for reviews and all the things we watch and talk about, and it's great. So the first, and I'm kind of happy with how the wall, the new mix on the wall. It's not alphabetized like I said I was gonna do, but it looks better. Like we have Death Race 2000 next to the original series.
And Cutting Class.
Yeah, and then Crash next to The Boys from Brazil. So we have a nice mix of stuff on the wall.
Boogeyman 2 next to Stepfather 3. You know.
Yeah.
We got to change up the perspective sometimes.
And then the Puerto Rican Mambo next to Murder by Decree.
And Tracy Lords and Ice.
I still haven't watched that. The last time I picked it up, it like rattled a little bit when I shook it. So I'm afraid of watching. Anyway, we have a lot of movies to watch. Like we were talking about before, we had a lot of those tapes that we got from that one seller, the guy that was selling off his personal stash. So we've kind of stopped watching those because they're packed away in boxes, and I need to find more space for them because smaller room, and you know how it is with tapes and one thing. Okay, let's talk about this. Being a tape collector, and moving, that's probably one of the worst things about collecting tapes, because one tape is fine. One tape is, it's a tape and you pick it up and it's fine. A couple hundred tapes, it's really fucking heavy, and moving that almost killed me because not only did I move myself, but I helped someone else move it. I almost died, but I lost a lot of weight. I have muscles, and it's good. Everything's great.
That's what it's all about. You gotta be strong to collect VHS tapes.
Yeah, you basically, VHS collectors aren't just overweight guys that, still live in their mom's basement. That's a very small percentage.
Yeah.
Okay, who are we kidding? That's the majority of tape collectors. Anyway,
love you guys.
Love all of you guys. You're doing great. Keep collecting. We're proud of you.
Yeah.
If you think you're alone collecting tapes, you're not. I mean, we're all sleazy. We're all greasy. We all smell a little bit.
We're all paying way too much for tapes that are already on DVD.
Exactly. Oh, and speaking of that leads us into our movie of today.
Which is...
So I was looking this up because Vinegar Syndrome just came out with a Blu-ray of this, and I read the description and I was like, okay, we have Paul Reubens, Carol Kane, to a lesser degree Tom Smothers, and a shitload of other people. And I was like, this movie sounds insane, and it's called
Pandemonium.
Pandemonium, which basically means madness,
insanity,
crazy things happening. I think
hijinks.
The root word of it, pandemonium, it means a place of demons. It was like in Milton's Paradise Lost, about it, when he was talking about pandemonium, he's talking about the place where demons dwell, which is kind of weird because this has nothing to do with demons, but it's fine. It's an interesting fact about pandemonium. Anyway, all right, we're gonna
in this beautiful case.
Yeah, it's really pretty.
It's one of those MGM UA book boxes that
opens
like
up.
That.
You have the cast list in there.
Yeah, it's got the cast list, so we can look at that during the review because we're stupid and we don't remember things.
But now
there's even a little booklet of other releases you can get from MGM UA.
Yeah, you can order away or.
And this thing in the middle is embossed. says MGMUA. I love that.
I have a couple.
Classy. There's a few in your wall.
Yeah, I have a couple of those, and they're all good. Usually, if they took the time to put it in a box like that, and now we can put it on this pillar, this very nice pillar that you can buy for $29.95 at no, this is a new addition to the review wall, and it's really nice. It's made of pure marble, if you can't tell. Anyway, so this movie, there are a lot of similarities to another movie that we reviewed, Wacko.
Yeah, I mentioned this movie when we were reviewing that.
You did? Okay.
Yeah.
So...
But I hadn't seen it at the time. I just knew I had the tape.
So, yet another...
slasher spoof.
Slasher horror parody. Because it's not just parodying slasher movies. There's also a character who is a direct parody of Carrie.
Mm-hmm.
And that's about it. It's like, okay, so Wacko was more of, it was using like all these different tropes or whatever to make fun of them and poke fun of them, and at the same time just throwing in a lot of really bad jokes. There are bad jokes.
The Elephant Man gag was inspired.
Yes, that was pretty good. There are a ton of bad jokes in this movie.
Yes.
But I like...
Because it's an early 80s spoof movie that wasn't made by the Zucker brothers.
And it also had parallels to, like, it felt like a kind of a Cheech and Chong movie, too. And maybe I'm just saying that because Pee Wee Herman was in it. But anyway, it had
There's
those
a lot
kind
of cool
jokes.
people that just show up for a scene in this movie.
Yeah, Phil Hartman is in this movie. There's just random... Oh, Tab Hunter is in this movie.
Tab Hunter is in this movie.
But
two people who were in Carrie, but like also had played bit parts in this.
Yes. And then there is just a whole Carrie... We're getting ahead of ourselves. But I liked this a lot better than Wacko because...
There's no Joe Don Baker.
There's no Joe Don Baker. Okay, no, Joe Don was a strong point, kind of, in Wacko. But they didn't go for every fucking cheap joke that they could get. Like, in this one, there were some jokes that were genuinely funny. Like, even though they were just, like, gag jokes or just silly, there were actually funny, thought-out jokes in this movie. And I think all the actors were doing... Well, okay, I'm going to say, like, 80% of the actors were doing a really good job. And I was really happy, especially, like... When it said that Paul Rubens was in it, I was like, oh, he's going to have a small part or something, and it's not going to be Pee-wee. No, it's very, he's very, like, in the movie, and so I was very happy with that. But, yeah, let's get into the plot. Okay. So, back in 1964?
68?
68, okay. Something like that.
It's in the 60s.
It's
setting it up for whoever comes back 20 years later.
It starts off, I think, with Tab Hunter
being the all-state quarterback or whatever.
Yeah, it shows a lot of stock footage of people watching a football game, and then Tab Hunter, like, doing a touchdown, whatever you do in the football. And then he's big, and that's great. And then we jump to a cheerleader camp, same year, with, okay... That's another weird thing about this movie. Whenever there's, like, a switch to another scene, there would be, like, text that was always just very bizarre. One was like, this is happening same time, same year, or whatever. And so it went to a cheerleader camp, and there is this one girl that's just very exuberant and very... pro cheerleader. Like, she's really excited to be there, excited to be a cheerleader, and she finds out that the other cheerleaders are going to a party or something. Is that what happens? Mm-hmm. And so the other cheerleaders are all talking about it after the game, and they're like, I'm so glad we decided to do a vegetable-based halftime show. And they all have these, like, really big slices of vegetables. And the girl who really wants to, like, hang out with them is like, hey, I heard you guys are going to the malt shop later. Can I come along? And they're like, get lost. And then she's like, oh, very, very upset, and she walks away. And then they're all walking away too, but for some reason in an extremely straight line. They're all walking away. And then we see from like the classrooms or something. Oh God. Can you explain? Because it's so dumb. He goes to
like a gym storage.
We don't know who it is
true.
At this point.
That's true. We just know it's somebody with fingerless gloves.
Yes.
Who can just rip locks apart.
Yes.
The kind of killer that you know is indestructible because they just rip things to shreds for no reason. They go to the javelins storage, which has one javelin, and they grab it, and there's a great scene where this unknown killer throws this javelin, and it's like that part in Rock and Roll High School where the giant paper airplane is flying through the school. This javelin flies through the school, perfectly going right through the football stadium and hits the cheerleaders that are all walking in a line with their vegetables.
With their vegetables in front of them.
Yes.
And so each cheerleader turns around and goes, oh! 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 Every time. And of course, once they fall down, it's...
The headline is shish kebab to death.
Yeah, because they look like a giant shish kebab. But that scene could have been really stupid. And yeah, okay, it's a little stupid. But it looked really good. The javelin flying through the halls, the javelin like even going through, it was really effective while being stupid at the same time. And that kind of is throughout the movie. Stupidity done with respect, I guess. Done with
restraint.
Restraint, yes. Done with an eye for what's actually funny. There were only a couple times when this movie lost me, so I say that's a plus point. Anyway, from there, it flashes to present day, so the 80s, 86, something like that. And there is...
I think this was 81, 80. I don't know.
Yeah. It's somewhere... No, it can't be that early. Because they were like... Weren't there references to, like, Michael Myers and... I don't know. There was...
Well, you know, Halloween came out in 78.
Okay, yeah, you're right. From there, we go to the now, which is, like, early 80s. And there's a new cheerleader camp opening. And it's being run by the kind of rebuked cheerleader that couldn't go out with the other cheerleaders. And she's like...
It's been her lifelong dream, as she explains in an exposition scene.
Oh, okay, we forgot something from the first scene. She's really obsessed with Tab Hunter's, like, football guy. She goes to his locker and she's like... It opens it and all these awards fall out. And then she's like smelling his clothes and she's like, I'm going to be so perfect. I'm going to get rid of my New Jersey accent and I'm going to, you know...
Bathe in milk.
I'm going to bathe in milk and you're going to love my skin. I'm going to bleach my hair. And so we forgot that part. But anyway, that comes back later. So let's just make that clear. So she is the head of a cheerleader camp of 6 students, which we meet one at a time.
As victim 1, victim 2, victim 3, so on.
The movie tells us, here's victim 1, and then we meet Judge Reinhold with like a completely bleach blonde hair, and he's like, is he the first one we meet? I don't know if that's the first one. But anyway, so he's...
I think we got Carol Kane first.
Oh yeah, Carol Kane. So Carol Kane is in this movie. Carol Kane is amazing. If you don't know who she is, you probably don't like movies or theater. Or, okay, that's a little pompous to say, but come on, you have to know who Carol Kane is. She has this very squeaky, beautiful voice, and
she's a redhead.
She's just amazing, and everything she does.
You know her if you see her.
Yes.
She was in a slasher movie about 2 years before this.
Which one was that?
When a Stranger Calls.
Oh, yes. Okay, yeah, and she was also in When a Stranger Calls Again?
Back, I think.
Yeah, When a Stranger Calls Back. And was she the killer? Okay, we don't want to ruin that. Anyway,
that was pretty good. We don't want to ruin that one.
We see Carol Kane heading off to cheerleader camp, and right before she takes the bus, her mom comes out of nowhere, and her mom is literally what's that actress?
Piper
Laurie from Carrie, which I just saw at the drive-in.
And I saw it too.
Oh my god, it's so good.
This was a good one to watch.
Yes. So they did the whole scene where, like, her mom comes at her and she's like, you have to listen to the God's word, and she's like, look at you. I can see your dirty pillows. And she's like, Mom, and there's just a guy standing there with actual dirty pillows. She's like, those aren't my dirty pillows. Anyway,
well, they're his.
She does.
And the guy who's holding the dirty pillows is Sidney Lassick, who is in Carrie 2.
He was in Carrie. He was in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. He was in... He never has like a really big role in anything, but he's always really good.
Yeah.
And so he's just like, oh, my dirty pillows, and he walks away.
Those aren't dirty pillows, they're tits!
And so, yeah, the whole conversation between her and her mom is really funny. And then she, with her telekinetic powers, lifts her mom off the floor, and she does the whole thing that Carrie does, which is, I'm gonna do everything I want to do, and I'm gonna kiss boys, and I'm gonna sleep with truckers and get crabs. So this movie loved Carol Kane because they gave her a lot of really good lines and a lot of great scenes, and she's, I don't want to ruin anything, but she's kind of the final girl, I guess you could say, in a sense. So we meet Carol Kane, and then Judge?
I think so.
So Judge is what was Judge's deal? I can't remember. What was he doing? They each had an intro, and now
his dad was blind.
Oh yes. Okay, so this was...
Oh, and he had a lot of pencils.
Oh god. Okay, so there are some jokes that are like...
Oh, of course. How would it be an 80s spoof without jokes that make you go, you can't make jokes like that anymore.
So, so his mom is, like, now I don't want to say normal, but she's not blind, and then his dad comes out with a cup filled with pencils. He's like, good luck at cheerleader camp, you want to buy a pencil? He's like, okay, Dad, and he buys a pencil, and then he opens his suitcase, and just all these pencils fall out. And so it's like a heartwarming, but also extremely offensive joke right there. So Judge goes off, and then I think we meet the hitchhiker lady? Or, no, the toothpaste queen.
Yes.
So we meet the toothpaste. I don't know why she loves toothpaste, but she does, apparently. And so we're introduced to her by her father, who basically... is like...
He's like a game show host.
Yes. He comes into the kitchen. He's like, now, introducing breakfast. Over here is eggs, brought to you by my son,
Jimmy.
And then over here we have juice, brought to you by my daughter. And then she comes down, and they like present her with a thing of toothpaste. It's just so bizarre. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but I mean, I'm with it. I think it's great. And then it goes to the
two bros.
Yeah, the two horny bros, played by the brother of Michael J. Fox from Back to the Future, and then some other guy that I did not recognize.
But their names are Andy and Randy.
Andy and Randy. Every student in the cheerleader camp, all 6, they all have
rhyming names.
There's Andy, Mandy,
Sandy,
Randy, Sandy, Candy, and then
Glenn.
Glenn
Dandy.
It's
just a good guy.
This shouldn't be that funny, but it was very funny because the actors were really good, and they sold this really stupid joke.
And they come back to it later with another dumb joke. But it's really well done. That's what we're talking about. This movie has so many dumb jokes, and
it's inexplicable that it's good.
Yeah.
Because there's stupidity abounds, but it's fun, and it's never, except for the Asian airline thing, it's never like...
There's a lot of like Japanese humor,
Yeah.
like jokes at the expense of the Japanese. Over the Rainbow is the same way. There's a whole joke about how Japanese tourism in the 80s was all about, I don't know, I wasn't around, but apparently they went around taking pictures of everything.
Yeah, that was like a running joke and running bad joke.
I guess it's in a lot of movies, but especially in the early 80s, you couldn't get away from it.
Yes. So there's, okay, then so we meet, oh, and then there's the cheerleader that's hitchhiking,
Mm-hmm.
and I think she's from a rich family or something, or just very glamorous, I guess. Because, like, she's hitchhiking, and then someone pulls over, and she's like, I'm gonna need 3 references before you pick me up. And then she just goes to the next car. She's like, I'm gonna need 3 references. And then she goes to the next car. I'm gonna need 3 references. Then she ends up getting dropped off at the cheerleader camp by Ronald Reagan, who offers her jelly beans, and she's like, Nancy might put out for jelly beans, but I won't. And then she like walks away. So that's really funny. And so they all get there, and there's
then we meet the Mountie and
oh yes, there's
his horse and Pee-wee.
Yes, but before they all get there, they're all kind of, at least Carol Kane is warned about that it's like a death camp and everyone dies, and there's this like
there's a scene that directly is like Friday the 13th where they close up shop at the hot dog stand.
Right. It's very like
everybody
ominous.
drops their plates and runs.
Oh yeah, the hot dog stand that is like shaped like a hot dog. There's so many like little things in this movie that are just throwaway gags, but they're like done so well, and you're like, oh, I appreciate that. That okay. But they all get there, and then we meet the police chief that's a Canadian Mountie with his partner Bob, the horse, who's sometimes a real horse and sometimes a disturbing puppet horse, and their assistant Johnson. What was his last? Because it was different at the beginning.
Yeah,
it's like
I don't like your name, Dibbler.
Yeah, Dibbler. His name was like Dibbler. He's like, and he's like, change your name, Dibbler. I did. It's John. What was it?
It's Johnson now, sir.
It's Johnson now, sir. And so Pee Wee Herman basically cleans up around the place, and the Canadian Mountie that's played by Tom Smothers, who is top billed in this movie, but nobody knows who Tom Smothers is anymore. Tom Smothers was, I think he got famous by, he did a comedy act with his brother, and it was the Smothers Brothers, and they were on Johnny all the time, and they were big, but I'm pretty sure at this point, like,
Pee-wee's
Pee-wee's
Carol
like,
Kane.
Yeah, Carol Kane's big.
Paul Rubin are up there.
Yeah, and she's in this a lot too, but I don't think they even like named her. This is a great cover. It's fantastic.
It's one of those, caricature covers.
Yes, it's an ensemble.
Who was that? Candy Azara.
Candy Azara.
And who played that lady?
I don't know. She's great though. I like how they wrote Johnson is Paul Rubens Pee Wee Herman in quotation, because he's basically Pee Wee in this movie, and it's very.
And this was before the movie.
Yeah, so. It's very good. So we meet them, and they're very funny. At first I was like, all right, Tom is playing it a little too straight, but then I'm like, it really plays well with Pee Wee being so over the top and so like, because he's so angry that the police
he's second banana to a horse.
Yeah, to a horse, because he has to serve the horse, and he has to like be nice to the horse.
Here's your coffee, Bob.
Here's your coffee, Bob. Yeah, he's just very he's very mean to Bob, but to be fair, the Mountie, his boss, is very mean to him in a very subtle kind of way. But anyway, so there's them, and they're dealing with both an escaped mental patient and an escaped prisoner. And so I think that was supposed to be for the audience, like we're supposed to, one of them is the killer, because we keep seeing these hands coming out to grab people, or just like things about to happen, and we just see like the hands, and we're like, okay, somebody's killing somebody. And okay, and then we get into
Also, that in case we weren't aware, uh, when they both break out, but they both meet each other on the road.
Oh yeah,
I really like that scene.
That was really weird.
when the convict is hitchhiking and the asylum patient just picks him up, and he's already found an old guy mask to disguise himself.
Oh, and I think it's the prisoner that escapes. He kills people and then turns them into furniture.
Yes.
That's his thing. I can't remember what the insane patient, what his deal was, but they find like a victim. They go into a corner at one point and they pull out the thing, and it's just like an end table with it's supposed to be a cop because it's got like the cop belt on it and everything. So anyway, so we get into the cheerleader camp a little bit, and they're doing workouts, and the cheerleader from earlier, the head, the teacher, is showing them stuff kind of, but we never really get too much into that because that's all really secondary to basically watching them get killed off one by one ridiculously. Really, I'm not going to say who gets killed, but I think maybe we should talk about some of the ways they get killed, right?
And also the various gags that
yes
separate their deaths.
So we can get back to the milk bath, because our teacher is taking a very nice milk bath
with cookies
everywhere, and the killer comes in there with a knife and starts like stabbing at everything, and she's like not even paying any attention. She doesn't even care. Oh, that's really interesting. And then he grabs a bag of cookies, and she's like, my cookies. And then she's like freaking out, and then something might happen. I don't know. Anyway, so, and then I think it just all goes with their personalities, basically. Judge Reinhold is bouncing a lot, thinking about Mandy.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he's thinking about Mandy, and then the killer like puts some dynamite underneath him when he's doing his gymnastic jump, whatever they're called, and then he explodes out of a window and goes flying into like the stratosphere and flies by a plane, and then we get the whole kind of racist Asian air thing that the movie could really have done without.
Well, at least Godzilla makes an appearance.
And Godzilla is one of the servers. Oof. Wow. And a lady's like, I'm sorry, my coffee's too cold. And he turns around and burns her. So the rest of the movie is basically kind of a slasher spoof, and just a lot of jokes, a lot of Pee-wee, a lot of Smothers Brothers. And I'm going to be honest, I did not see the killer coming. Like, I completely forgot about where we had seen the killer before.
I kind of figured it'd be,
You knew who it was?
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe I just completely forgot about.
I mean, because it's I've watched so many slasher movies, and you know that in the beginning, things that are introduced to you, especially if it took place like 20 years ago, are like really important later.
Right.
So.
Okay.
So if you do your slasher movie, homework, you'll probably figure out who the real killer is.
So we're not ruining anything.
Mm-hmm.
We're not gonna say, because this movie, like we said, it just came out on Blu-ray from Vinegar Syndrome, and this looked really good just on this tape. So I'm imagining, like, without the sides cut off and probably some color correction, I bet it looks even better. The one thing though, the art that Vinegar Syndrome did, it doesn't even come close to this. Like, they're trying to make it scarier than it is. And obviously there are some really
maybe that's like a UK poster, because they always go crazy with their colors, but they must have missold the movie then.
I think so, because there are some spooky elements in this movie, and there's
a lot of fog.
There's some really good
And there's
fog.
a great bit where there's
we meet Squeak. What is his name? Squiggy from Happy Days. But in this, his name is
he's like a
Pepe.
Peter. He's like a Peter Lorre dude.
Yeah, that's what they say on the back.
And there's a lady who's basically the gypsy woman from the Wolfman.
And so he's one of the people that tells Carol Kane, like, don't go to this. It's cursed. And then his mother comes out, and the door bursts open, and there's all this like fake
camera in effect, visual effect fog
coming off of her, and she's like, "Don't go, the night will turn into a cheerleader." And then, which made it seem like some sort of cheerleader werewolf kind of thing. And then what was really funny was like she's standing next to Pepe now, and she's like still explaining it, and he's just like wiping off some of that
digital fog.
The digital fog off her shoulder.
That really cheesy superimposed chroma keyed fog. And he's just like, it's still there.
Funny.
And then it finally disappears.
So I guess this was gonna be like my final say on the movie. There are a lot of dumb jokes, and there's a lot of stupid like sight gags and
there's
stuff
some
like
jokes that go on a little too long, I think.
Yes.
But some that kind of pay off, like the camera in the middle of the table.
Oh yeah, okay.
Everybody has a name that rhymes. Hey, you want some candy?
Yeah, I'll have Mandy's candy. Yeah.
Can I have Sandy's candy?
And then and it ends with like, "What's your favorite candy, Andy?" And he goes, "Mints." So it's really it's full of dumb jokes, but very funny, and really great actors. Phil Hartman, like I said, makes like a tiny appearance in it. Directed by Alfred Soule, who either wrote or directed Alice, Sweet Alice.
He directed Alice, Sweet Alice.
And I don't know what else.
So it looks good.
It looks very good. The cinematography is pretty good. And it's really worth watching. Hopefully it ends up on some sort of streaming service, like eventually. And I'd recommend it. What do you think?
Yeah. What was your favorite joke in the movie? Or favorite series of jokes? Because sometimes they just package them really neat.
I just really loved Paul Rubens' interaction with the fake horse. Whenever the horse was fake, I was really happy. Oh, God, yeah. And at one point, the Mountie and Paul Rubens show up to the Lover's Lane / cemetery that has a neon sign on a gravestone. And they show up to it, and the horse is in the back seat of the police car. It's just like, it's such a throwaway joke, but I'm like, why is he in the back seat? Why? And then they go into like a mortuary, a mausoleum kind of thing, and I was like, this looks a lot like the Phantasm Mausoleum. What was your favorite joke?
There's this random bit where some of the cheerleaders go on the road and they go to a place to eat, which is called the House of Bad Pies.
Oh my God, yes, yes.
It's just
the House of Bad Pies.
Yeah. So
they go in there, and then people are coming out. The waitresses
are twins, and they're also rude.
But you forgot, when they're going in, there's like five people leaving.
There's like 5 like
puking.
Punk rockers.
They're all like
puking.
Yeah.
And one guy's like, "Can I have the free Stooges pie, please?"
Yeah,
thanks.
Pie right to the face. Everything in that scene was just
I'll have this, and then she rips up the menu and is like, "Here, have it."
It was like a joke every 5 seconds in that restaurant, and then that restaurant had nothing to do with the rest of the plot. It was just like, let's do a rapid fire joke session in this House of Bad Pies. Anyway, I thought it was great. I hope you check it out. Welcome to the new set.
We give Pandemonium 2 skulls.
Yeah.
Out of 2 skulls up. 2 skulls.
We have 2 skulls. There's the full 2 skull review.
2 skulls up. We'll see you at the video store drive-in.
Video store drive-in, which doesn't exist, but we'll see you at one of those things. And be good.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.